Hey guys, this is Comic and today I'm doing a topic video on 2017 pick of the weeks. I've been doing this for a while actually. I think I've been doing it since 2014. So I always like just recapping the year, and I actually did a top 15 list on Twitter, and now I'm showing you guys what were my pick of the weeks of the year. It's kind of a cool way to run down all my favorite comics. So let's get started and first start with Batman. So the first one's Batman issue 14, and this is the issue where we get to see Catwoman and Batman spend their last night together. I just thought it was a really romantic issue and really started that Catwoman-Batman relationship and storyline that was very heavy in 2017 and I loved from the series. So moving on to Batman issue 21, and this was the Button first issue. I really enjoyed the Button, definitely one of my favorite events of the year, and this was a really good entrance. I hadn't read Flash in a while, and I think it felt like a very much a standalone storyline and a good prequel to, you know, what we are getting with Doomsday Clock now. So if you're a big Watchmen fan, there's so many great references. I love Watchmen, and if you're a Batman and Flash fan, but I would say especially Batman because it gives a lot of references to Flashpoint. It was a very well done storyline with a lot of good surprises. Now moving on to Batman issue 24, which was the big reveal that Batman, and this is actually a follow-up from the Button storyline where Thomas says, hey, be happy, Bruce. And Bruce is kind of happy in his own way where he asks Catwoman to marry him. And of course it took a little while to get the answer because we did have that kind of slower arc with the Jokes and Riddles storyline, at least in my opinion. But a really well done issue here of how Batman gets to the proposal, and also that conversation he has with Gotham Girl. Wish we got a little bit more Gotham Girl in 2017 than we actually did, but really enjoyed that story just from beginning and end. Now moving on to Batman issue 34, Catwoman vs. Talia. This was just a fun issue. And Tom King just gets the voices of these characters and all these great character moments. And just seeing these two women that are very important in Batman's life fighting against each other with Joelle Jones, great artwork, was a pleasure to read. Now moving on to Batman issue 37, which was such a fun issue, probably one of the funnest issues of the year, and that is the double date between Catwoman and Batman and Superman and Lois Lane. Just seeing Batman and Clark switching costumes, and then playing baseball together, and then Catwoman and Lois connecting. Such a fun issue. Hopefully we get even more of that with Batman in 2018. I would not mind that being like a yearly thing, just seeing their double dates. So those are all my Batman pick of the weeks from this year. And then we move on to Justice League Power Rangers issue 1. Love Tom Taylor as a writer, and you could tell how much he loves the Justice League and Power Rangers with this book. It's just kind of a fun storyline you never would expect to happen, but now DC is doing all these awesome crossovers, and as a Power Rangers fan, I had a blast with this issue. Now moving on to, sadly, the only Amazing Spider-Man issue on this list, and that's Amazing Spider-Man issue 23, and definitely the best Spider-Man storyline of the year, where we get to see Gwen and Peter have that final closure they never did with the clone conspiracy. The actual Gwen having that conversation with Peter was a great moment. If you're a big Spider-Man fan like I am, I think you'll really appreciate that issue. Now moving on to some more Power Rangers. I got Power Rangers Pink issue 6. Now this was an issue kind of, I guess, left over from 2016 because it was mostly in 2016, but we got the finale in 2017, and as a huge Kimberly fan, I loved it. I loved everything they did with this storyline, and it was a really good ending where it felt open enough that you could get more Kimberly storylines if they want to write them. Now moving on, I'm going to cluster these together because I've had pretty much all pick of the weeks for Go-Go Power Rangers. So that's Go-Go Power Rangers issue 1 through 4. So I love this book. I really enjoy Power Rangers, as you guys know, and it's just such a great character-driven storyline where you get introductions of new characters like Matt, who plays as the wild card in this book because you just don't know what his role is going to be. And then you have Rita actually being a serious villain and more of a chess match type villain than twirling her mustache, creating monsters that the Power Rangers easily defeat. It's definitely more complicated than the show, especially with the characters' relationships, and I love every issue of this book. Now, issue 5 did come out this week, I guess last week, this week, kind of. But that was number 2. It did not make my pick of the week, but all 4 issues, 1 through 4, made my pick of the week for Go-Go Power Rangers. Now moving on to Invincible issue 132, the only Invincible issue this year, hopefully as the series comes to a close. I will have some more for next year. I think there's 1 or 2 more issues left. Maybe, I think there's only, yeah, I think there's 1 more issue of Invincible. So we'll see if the finale does make my pick of the week. But I enjoyed this. I like Terra kind of discovering her abilities, and I remember just being a really great action-packed issue, but having really great character conversations as they did that action, so it was really well balanced. Now moving on to Miss Marvel issue 15. This was the start of the internet troll that Kamala has to go up against, and I love this arc so much because it put a modern / creative spin on an arc obviously we've seen before, which is having a superhero trying to hide their identity. And this one was really creative, and again using the internet and that side of paranoia, I guess, to tell this story. Now moving on, and this is part of the same arc, and that's Miss Marvel issue 16, where we get to see Zoe reveal her feelings to Nakia. It was really well built up during Civil War II, where Zoe reveals her sexuality, and there's been some really nice build up to this reveal that she had a crush on Nakia this whole entire time, but really well done issue, and it shows not just Miss Marvel dealing with the troll, but her supporting cast and just building this wonderful supporting cast that Miss Marvel has. Now moving on to Miss Marvel issue 21, I love that Josh was the villain, Discord. That was the reveal issue, that he was the one after Civil War II, he just didn't know what to do, and he followed, I forget her name all the time, but the villain from Civil War II. And I really like the reveal, and once again, Miss Marvel just doing a really great job of fleshing out their supporting characters and making the supporting characters just as important as Kamala, and that's how you create the world of Jersey City and this series. So that's my Miss Marvel picks for the year. And then I got Batwoman Rebirth issue 1. So Batwoman, this was actually next to the Future issue, which I also enjoy. Batwoman Rebirth was the only Batwoman issue I really liked. I was pleasantly surprised with it, and I like Batwoman as a character, and I really liked how they told the present, past, and future for Batwoman with this story, but I don't feel like the series ever lived up past the Rebirth issue, but I'm still sticking with it because I do like her as a character, and I did like the Rebirth issue. Now moving on to Revival issue 47, sadly the last issue of Revival, but glad Revival is able to make it onto this list for 2017. A wonderful ending for this series. I just really enjoyed how they brought this to a close. I think there was a lot of great themes in this book, and really showing the relationship between Em and her sister Dana being the center of that story, and what life and death really means. So a lot of deep stuff going on in that book. Now moving on to Paper Girls issue 12. Now Paper Girls, I mean, I just love this book, as you know, and this arc was so good. So with this issue, it was Mac and KJ bonding, and you didn't really know a lot about KJ before this. Obviously, she was a character in the series, but you definitely focused a bit more on Mac and Erin previously. So it was nice to have this whole arc to learn more about KJ, and you got to see their bond. Now in issue 13, we got to see that it was revealed that KJ likes Mac, and she didn't even know it. So it's her kind of self-discovery of her sexuality, which was so great for a series about, you know, kids growing up in this coming-of-age storyline. Now moving on to Paper Girls issue 14, which is also my pick of the week. Again, I love this arc. And in this one, we get to see KJ again finally realize, okay, that future vision I saw is true, and her kind of accepting herself with some gorgeous artwork by Cliff Chang and these facial expressions utilized there. Now moving on to Paper Girls issue 18, and that is the reveal that Waru is the evil future guy. We didn't know who he was, and now we're seeing these connections between the story arcs, which is definitely nice to get some more answers. And also the reveal between KJ and Mac. Now Mac knows about probably not that about her feelings, but again, at least about her sexuality. We'll see how that ends with this arc in 2018. Now, moving on to All New Wolverine, issue 18. I really enjoyed this issue because I've been a Laura fan for a very long time. I've been reading X-23 for a very long time. And I like that we get to see a nice throwback to the original X-23 miniseries and her origin story, and really closing that chapter with this, you know, seeing Laura have her own identity. That's always been her journey, figuring out who she is because she is created to be a weapon, didn't even have a name, and she truly embraces her name as Laura and Wolverine with this book. Next Wolverine book is Generations Wolverine and All New Wolverine. Definitely the best one-shot of the year. I love the relationship between Laura and Logan here and just showing that father-daughter relationship. So many great emotions. Definitely the best Generations issue as well. Now moving on to my only Superman book, I believe here, which is Action Comics issue 976. And this is where Lois and Clark remember John. I did like the Superman Reborn storyline overall and leading into Mr. Oz and getting that overall scope of DC Rebirth and what that mystery is. They're still unraveling that mystery. So, Action Comics issue 976. Moving on to Spider-Woman issue 17, another series that sadly ended in 2017, but I love this creative team. Dennis Hopeless, I love his writing, and I like the ending. I think it was a good way to end the story where we had, you know, a good run for Spider-Woman, and I like that Roger and Jessica ended up together. It was a really fun series and a fun ride. Now moving on to The Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows issue 6, and this is, if you're a big Spider-Man fan, you're a fan of classic Marvel, read this. It's Annie Mae, Peter and MJ going to the X-Men, you know, school, and them interacting with old school X-Men. It was a lot of fun. Now moving on to Supergirl being super, we have issue 3 and issue 4. Issue 1 was on my list from last year. And I just love this series. If you're a Supergirl fan, this is a must-read, and it's probably the best Supergirl series I've read, and I just love it. Makes Kara have her own origins, and that was definitely important because she's always been in the shadow of Superman with her origins. Now moving on to Superwoman issue 10. This is where Lana gains her abilities back, and I think this was definitely the height of Superwoman. Then it kind of went down towards the end again, but I do love the idea of Superwoman and Lana having these abilities, and I think they really picked up the story in this kind of middle portion of the series. Now moving on to Archie issue 20, which is Over the Cliff storyline, where we find out how this person that was obviously big in Archie's storyline is going to get hurt. It was being teased for a couple of months and has to do with cars, and it was awesome how they showed the Betty and Archie relationship through cars. And then Archie issue 22, it's revealed that Betty is paralyzed, that she is the one who got hurt, and they just have been doing a really great, realistic story with Betty and her recovering and how this has affected her relationships. Next is The Normals issue 1. Really enjoyed a lot of stuff from Aftershock this year, and The Normals had a really good start. Something different is about this normal family who find out that they're robots, and hopefully get a little bit more from this, because the ending was a little disappointing, just because it felt so much like an ongoing series. Now moving on to Spider-Gwen, issue 20. So Spider-Gwen is, issue 20 is where we get to see Gwen and Harry teaming up. And some of the best storylines I really think is between those two. Seeing the different version of the Green Goblin spider dynamic here. And seeing Harry's journey of trying to figure out his own identity here. Next is Spider-Gwen issue 24, which is Gwen really embracing becoming Gwenom. You know, she was able to fight it, but here a lot of stuff happens and she turns to the dark side. And then Spider-Gwen issue 26, where Gwen is fully towards the dark side, has a very interesting conversation with Cindy Moon, who actually gives her good advice, saying, leave it all, you know, just stop feeling this vengeance, just leave it, and that's how you're gonna be saved as a person. So really interesting stuff with this Gwenom storyline, which I can't wait to see continue in 2018. Now moving on is Hulk issue 7, which I felt like had a really good start. I haven't been liking She-Hulk as much as Hulk, but there's been some really great psychological stories here that I hope that are embraced a bit more with the She-Hulk series. Moving on to Silver Surfer issue 12, another run that ended this year, but really well done issue where Dawn has to say goodbye to her father. And it really shows kind of this realism of how you feel with grief, and you have this cosmic element to it, of course, but really liked how human this issue was. Moving on to Baby Teeth issue 2. I love this series this year. It's been in my top 5 probably every month, and obviously made my pick of the week with issue 2. And this is just such under the radar series, and I just love the characters. I love the interaction of family, the mystery of what is this world? Why is this baby kind of a demon? What does this all mean? And just a really well done series. I can't wait to see continue. Aftershock really had a good year. Moving on to Injustice 2 issue 7, and this was Black Canary and Oliver Queen getting married. If you're a fan of these characters, this is a must read. This is the Green Arrow and Black Canary storylines I love, and I kind of miss with the current Green Arrow series. Moving on to Hi-Fi Fight Club issue 1 and issue 3. I'm just going to put these two together. I love this series. I really fell in love with the characters, and I just want to see more of them. It was cute, it was feisty, it was bright, it was so different, and I think the character work was just so well done here. I love the elements of how music was brought into it, vigilantism, just a really fun series that I wish was an ongoing. Now moving on to Hawkeye issue 10. Which is Madame Mask pretending to be Kate. This was just an interesting issue where you kind of know this is not Kate, but how did this happen? And I liked how they unraveled that mystery. Moving on to Hawkeye issue 12, which was the Wolverine and Kate's team up. And this is more than a team up. It actually did help Kate with her storyline with her mother, with her father, and dealing with that. And it was just a fun team up to see these two characters interacting, and Gabby being thrown in there too. Now, moving on to Runaways, literally has been my pick of the week each time it came out, so I'm just going to put them all together. I love this return. I think Chris Anka and Rainbow Rowell just put such attention to detail with this book. And I've always loved the Runaways, and this is just what every fan wants, you know? It's just, I love that it has this modern flair, and it's showing these teen characters, these cult favorite teen characters becoming adults, and Gert not becoming an adult, which is really interesting. Love the Carolina issue. I'm a big Carolina Dean fan. She's one of my favorite characters, so seeing her return, because we've seen Nico, we've seen Chase, really hadn't seen Carolina since Avengers Academy, so it was nice to have a whole issue about her. Same for Molly. We hadn't really seen that version of Molly in a long time, so good stuff with Runaways that I can't wait to see what's going to happen in 2018. Really excited to see the Julia-Carolina relationship develop too, because those are two of my favorite characters, so it's cool that they're together. And they're not forgetting that storyline from Avengers Academy, which only had a few panels, but now we're actually seeing the development that is deserved for that relationship. Now moving on to Batman White Knight issue 1. This was just a really different Batman storyline, but at the same time kept to the basics of Batman. You get to see the whole Bat family. Obviously this interesting dynamic between Joker and Batman put on its head, where Joker becomes the hero. Just really interesting stuff. Now moving on to Motor Girl issue 10, another series I really enjoyed this year, and if you like psychological stories, this is a must read. Issue 10 does a nice reveal of what the story actually was about, which you probably could have tell as you're reading the series, but really love Terry Moore's work. I'm glad I was able to really catch up with his work this year, and excited for Strangers in Paradise coming out in January. Now moving on to my last pick of the week, which is Phoenix Resurrection. This is just a really solid issue. I thought they balanced the characters really well and introduced the mystery of what the hell's going on, why is Jean still alive, why is she a waitress, and why is Scott a different Scott. So it just was a really interesting mystery there. But again, you know, Kitty in charge as the head of the X-Men. I really liked how they told that storyline. Just a really solid start for this event going into 2018. So those are all my pick of the weeks. I'm gonna go down to how many were from each company, because that's always interesting to see. So my highest amount was 20 from Marvel, because Marvel does release more comics also. And then you got DC Comics has 13. Boom Studios had 7, so really glad to see Boom a bit higher than probably ever on this list, because they have some good titles with Hi-Fi, Fight Club, and Power Rangers. Then you have Image with 6, Aftershock with 3, which this is the first time I've really had Aftershock on my Pick of the Week list. Then you have Archie with 2 and Abstract Studios with 1. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Of course, next year I'll do it again. And follow my Comic Uno episodes. Follow Frontline Live, where I always do my top 5s and my, list of comics I read for the week and what I enjoyed. So hopefully you guys follow the reviews. And this is Comic Uno. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, description below, there are links for my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. And don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter. And I'll see you guys later.